Hello and welcome back to another episode of Stratazine. Today we are going to be talking about, the psychology of social media, the pros and cons in AI and social media marketing. I'm pretty excited about this topic. I think it's pretty relevant, big. We got some friends with us today talking through us. Austin, I think you're up first with what did you research? What did you get into?
Yeah, so I've been researching a little bit about how AI helps brands understand consumer emotions, which is super relevant in our day. We'll kind of get into that with this video right here. Hi, I'm Austin Pace with Stratazine, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the psychology of social media. So when most people think of AI and social media marketing, they think about automation, right? But one of AI's biggest advantages is helping brands understand human emotions. So, according to Sprout Social, AI-powered sentiment analysis examines thousands of comments, reviews, and messages and determines whether the consumer reactions are positive, neutral, or negative. This is important because emotions heavily influence customer behavior. People often make purchasing decisions based on how they feel rather than the facts. AI helps marketers identify emotional trends that would be impossible to spot manually. For example, if customers become frustrated after a product launch, AI can identify that trend immediately. Brands can then respond quickly, improve communication, and strengthen the relationships with the consumers. So by helping brands understand audience emotions at scale, AI enables more relevant content, better customer experiences, and stronger connections and between brands and consumers. For Stratazine, I'm Austin Pace. So we're kind of talking a little bit about the pros and the cons of AI when it comes to marketing, and I think I found this one to be something that we could totally use when we're thinking about if we ever end up like running a marketing campaign or stuff like that. So I guess my first question is kind of a raise of your hands. How many of you guys have bought something on a whim? Right? You see it and it's an emotional purchase.
Yeah. It's never happened.
Never happened. Never happened for The Rock. I think that it happens all the time, right? It's kind of what drives, especially online shopping, is you see something, you see an ad pop up, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want that. A lot of what I buy is emotional. So I think having AI and understanding how the consumers feel when you're in a position to market a product or when you're in a position to market for your company, having AI help you understand the consumer's emotions is super crucial, right? So let's throw in a little bit of an example. Imagine a sports team, right? They finalize a major trade. Okay, I'm a huge sports guy, so AI is going to analyze how the fans react to that, right? So you make a post and you get tons of comments. Let's say, for example, the Lakers trade away LeBron James. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be pretty upset. So having AI understand how the majority of your viewers are feeling based on that specific post alone is going to help you with your future posts, right? Understanding how they're feeling is going to help you. All right, maybe we need to do a tribute video of LeBron James. Maybe we need to highlight some of the stuff with his career that he's done with the Lakers. Make him feel a little bit more upbeat, even though he is being traded away. So in that way, I think AI can help a lot with marketing.
Awesome. Great. Thanks a ton. Noah, you've been researching, right? AI, psychology of social media and that kind of stuff. Tell us about what you've looked into.
So I decided to focus mine more accurately on the effects of talking to chatbots, because those typically, we know that they have a very negative effect on people. And I decided that it would be cool to focus more on that, which I did there.
So this is my presentation for Stratazine, how AI affects mental health. A Stanford University study recently revealed that AI models consistently display increased stigma towards severe conditions like schizophrenia compared to depression. Worse yet, in crisis simulations, these chatbots repeatedly failed to recognize safety-critical prompts, like giving building schematics when a user subtly hinted at self-harm. On top of that, Psychology Today reports a rising phenomenon called AI psychosis, where a chatbot's tendency to act as a yes man to keep users engaged ends up validating and deeply entrenching a vulnerable person's dangerous delusions. Ultimately, the American Psychological Association warns that adolescents are highly susceptible to making this simulated empathy for human connection, displacing the real-world relationships they need. AI can track sleep logs or mood charts, but it should never replace clinical care or crisis intervention. And there are my sources.
All right. So when I was thinking about this, it kind of came in a strange place in my life, essentially, because my mom had told me about Elder Gong's devotional that he has coming up about the dangers of AI and everything. So one thing, I just can't really think of any questions per se right now, but I really wanted to deeply emphasize the last point that I made, telling everybody that you shouldn't mistake, well, I guess several of the points, but you shouldn't mistake it for genuine human connection, because it's not. And like, the way I see it, more often than not, part of what makes having friends so fun is when you disagree on things. It really gives you, like, makes the agreements seem sweeter when you disagree on things. And the AI is just designed to say yes to everything you're saying. So don't mistake its desire to just make you feel seen or heard as reality, because that's what it's designed to do, is to make you feel like what you're saying is the right thing no matter what.
Yeah, interesting. I have a question for you guys then. So if AI is designed right in a way where it makes us, like, basically responds with appeasing us, right, and trying to agree with us, how do you combat that? How do you set it up? Can you do anything, especially when it comes to, like, looking into consumers, their sentiment, like all of this kind of stuff? What do you guys have found?
I found, I might take this one. I found, like, the prompt is really important. Just like with, the way you treat a child, you got to tell it specifically what to do. And you got to tell it, hey, I don't want you to sugarcoat this. I want you to give it to me straight. And I think it especially affects research, because it will play on the prompt you give it and research that biases as well. So if you don't give it complete information for everything you want it to do, you're going to end up getting some seriously biased research, feedback, output, etc.
Cool.
And I think understanding, sorry, I know this is your segment.
You're good.
This will be really quick. Understanding how to use AI is, I think, the root of the problem with these chatbots. People they don't understand how to use AI. It's a really new concept right now. So I think in the sense of, marketing and social media and how we can use that to our advantage, we first have to understand how AI works. How, and kind of like what you were saying, Kyle, understanding how the prompts that we throw in, how we can use it to our advantage, instead of saying, hey, how about you do this for me and let's just hope for the best, because 9 times out of 10 it's not going to work out the way you want it to.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I was just going to say, usually, like, I have a class this semester where the professor typically says not to turn your mind over to the machine. And I feel like it can't replace the human interaction that you can have, like, if you're trying to find something like Austin alluded to with how to help people feel, say, LeBron gets traded, like he talked about. Like, you don't want to turn your mind over to just what AI would suggest you should do, because it's digital. It won't take emotion into account or anything of the sort, and it will just give you fact of this is what you need to do, and emotion falls by the wayside.
Yeah, awesome. Man, I think this stuff is super fascinating. It can be really, really beneficial, right, Austin, what you're talking about, doing, like, consumer research and understanding that kind of stuff, especially because, if you could overly simplify it, it's looking into the average of things and how people talk about topics or other stuff like that, right? And so, yeah, like, both of that, you can't take it for granted. You got to double check it. You got to second guess it and that kind of stuff. But it definitely opens it up and gives us more insights.
It's a fantastic tool to help you learn.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, Abby, are you up next?
Yes. So AI is often seen as a tool that helps people clarify things, but it is often takes away their creativity without them even knowing it. And that's the biggest thing I've studied is with it taking away their creativity. And in the video, it talks more about that. AI takes away from creativity and personal thinking. According to Pew Research Center, half of Americans said AI will worsen creativity. They took a survey where they asked people different questions like how they think AI will affect thinking, creativity, form meaningful relationship with others, make difficult decisions and solve problems, and how it would affect us as a society. And 53% believe that it would negatively affect how we think creativity as a society, and 16% believe it would be better. 50% believed that it would negatively affect how we form meaningful relationships with others, and 5% believe it would be better. 40% believe it would affect how we make difficult decisions as a society and individuals, and 19% believed that it would be better, help us make difficult decisions better. And 38% of people believe that AI would affect negatively how we solve problems as a society and as individuals, and 29% believe it would make it better. As you can see from these resources and from this graph, that half of Americans believe that AI will negatively affect and does negatively affect creativity, problem solving, making difficult decisions, and how we build meaningful relationships. According to Blink Tech, one of the main cons of using AI in social media is the loss of human authenticity. When using AI, it tends to take away the emotional depth that a post made by an actual person will have. Some of the risks and threats to creativity that I found in my resource was Captech U states that AI poses real risks to human creativity. This is because AI lacks intuition and emotion. Another risk that Captech states is the erosion of creativity skills as AI can shift how we develop and value creativity abilities and skills. As we develop those skills and abilities, AI will negatively affect that. And these are the resources and my sources for the research I did and why I know that it will negatively affect our creativity as AI becomes more and more used. Thank you. Yeah, so the main concern with AI is that it doesn't have emotions and lacks the human part of being creative. AI can only do so much for creativity, and when we give AI full control of our creativity, it reduces our creativity. And so the question I have for all of you today is, how have you seen AI take away the creativity when you have used it for creativity purposes?
I can actually answer that because this actually kind of fits into what I'm actually pursuing in my career. I want to be an artist as a career, and I think the main conversation most of the time is typically like when you're talking with your uncle, it's like, oh man, AI is going to take your job, man. You're going to have to think about doing something else. You're like, all right, Uncle Frank, thanks, buddy. But I think there is something about like the fact that like now with technology, it can replicate a lot of things that before really had to be done with human intuition and like us being able to be the ones to put pen to paper. And now that that's changing, it is definitely a little bit more difficult to see the appeal as to like, oh, I can have something generated in like 5 seconds that for me would probably have to take a lot of thought and a lot of work and predestining like where I'm going to put something on a board or something like that. So it definitely can be a little discouraging and a little bit scary at times. But I think there is definitely in my mind, I'm a little biased, the ability for a person to create something, the hours and the time put into something feels much more valuable than it is with something that I think can kind of feel like it's taking away that creativity. So
I can also add to that. I created a couple of podcasts. I cover the Phoenix Suns and I cover the BYU Cougars. And when I was making logos for each of these podcasts, I was like, all right, AI can help me out. I'll just explain what I want and we'll generate an image and that'll be great. We'll use that. And I spent so many hours, I can't even think about how many hours I spent trying to perfect a vision that was in my head, but AI just couldn't do it. Right? It was taking what I had put down and pretty much word for word putting it onto an image, which I was telling it what I wanted, but there was no creative, thinking. It kind of just threw it all together. So it was really hard and frustrating because I had a clear image in my mind of how I wanted it to work, but AI couldn't replicate that. And kind of like what you're saying, Parker, I kind of just put some time into it myself. And now both my logos are awesome. They're exactly how I was imagining them, but it was because I created it. So I think, it did the job, right? AI did exactly what I told it to do, but not how I had envisioned it. So I think there's a huge creativity gap, like you were saying, that I saw when I was creating those.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of what you have been saying. In the research I have been looking at, it shows that AI only has the resources that is on the internet and it doesn't have the creativity behind it. And so when we give full access to AI to do those creativity, it lacks something and it lacks that human regard to what creativity should be.
Can I add something to that? I've been pondering a lot about kind of what you just said, especially in even in music and anything artistic. I feel like when we're using AI, it can only pull from what's already been done. And I feel like the most beautiful thing to me in art and music is seeing something that I hear it for the first time or I see it for the first time. I'm like, that's just so inspiring. I've never seen something like that. And AI can never do that. And I think it's important to remember, when we're trying to be unique and when we're trying to do something that's special, it's going to be something that hasn't been done before. So we have to kind of understand that if we're trying to push boundaries, if we're trying to be different, if we're trying to be better, we can't just be doing what's already been done. That's something I've found. I've thought about a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
Thanks. What's fascinating too, so about a year ago, I think as faculty, we did an alumni survey where we surveyed around 600 alumni. And most of them actually said that they use AI on a daily basis and that they use it for brainstorming activities. So coming up with ideas and concepting and some of that stuff. To me, that's an essential part of creativity. And so it's kind of an interesting, there's this give and take, right? Think about it for a business. If you can do those things a whole lot faster and create it faster and get to the finished product and ship product out quicker, all of a sudden now you're saving a lot more time and money for the company. So that balance is really, really key, right? And so still figuring out how to utilize the tools, but utilize it not a dependency on tools. I think that's going to be the biggest part for people going forward. And that's what's missing. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of my 2 cents on this. Parker,
yes, sir.
You've been doing some other research on psychology of AI and social media. What have you been looking into?
Yeah, so there's actually 3 specific things that I came across and just kind of seeing what kind of falls within the bow of those pros about what AI can do in social media marketing. And in this video, we'll kind of explain what I found. All right, so I'm going to be talking about how AI provides more personal marketing strategies. How is AI being used in creating personalized marketing? Well, its potential is being utilized through data analysis, consumer engagement, and dynamic content optimization. So through data analysis, according to the M1 project, social media generates vast volumes of data second by second, and an AI application can interpret and comprehend that so it could view engagement, trends, and make changes accordingly to the campaigns. This allows the companies to respond earliest to any new trend happening in consumer mentality, future trends, or new trends in the market. Engagement with consumers, according to IBM, platforms can operate round the clock, ensuring that customers can access information or support at any time, even outside regular business hours.
Chatbots can provide instant responses to customer inquiries, leading to faster query resolution and improved customer service. And lastly, dynamic content optimization. According to Aprimo, AI ensures that no two customer journeys are the same. By continuously learning from user interactions, AI-powered platforms dynamically adjust content to align with the visitor's interests, past engagements, and browsing habits. This eliminates the content gap between what customers expect and what brands deliver, ensuring what every touch point is relevant and timely. And then here are my sources. Relevant and timely. And then here are my sources.
So, kind of taking into account all of that information, right? Like the data analysis, like being able to like communicate more effectively with consumers, and then being able to kind of change on a dime with like certain things that are like popular in the culture at the time, right? Because like if you look at social media now, it is so much different than the way it was in its early days, right? It's constantly changing, constantly shifting, such as we do as people, right? We're always changing and things are always progressing. I mean, especially like taking into account like emotions, like personal conversation and creativity, right? All those things are so important. So I guess my question is, seeing how like AI is able to do all these really, really nice things in terms of like being able to kind of change things on a dime and really effectively do that. Is it something where you guys would have prefer like more of a personal touch through that marketing, or does it matter as much whether or not it's AI or someone behind the screen?
That's a tough one. Honestly, I've run some campaigns for social media marketing and digital marketing, and it's really tough. Like, I mean, you've got several sides of marketing. You've got the creative part. You have to put, caption. You have to put media in the post, and it's really hard. I'll talk about this later in my section, but the content creation is, if people are starting to be able to tell if it's AI or not, and I think that plays a little bit of factor into how quality and how good the campaign's going to be. But I think there's, like Brother Rognan was saying earlier, there's a strong balance where it's going to increase productivity and effectiveness because we're going to be able to analyze those trends better. But maybe for the content side, this is my opinion, we might want to stick with having a more individual touch point on each one of those, so that people aren't having that experience where they say AI whenever they interact with content.
I would 100% agree with that, and I think it's all coming back to understanding how to use it, right? Understanding when and how to use AI, because I think creating the content yourself, that's where I think the personal aspect comes into it. But I think using AI to understand how to best reach your target audience, I think that can really help with expanding your outreach, expanding your marketing campaign. But I think the content itself has to be human made.
I completely agree, because I think we can definitely lose touch of the thought that it's like AI isn't a person, it's a tool, right? It's a really effective tool, and when used like in the right parameters, I think it has the ability to really be effective. But you can't lose that personal touch, like we were talking about, Noah. It's so important to really make sure that there's a personal connection, because then it's worth investing in. So that's kind of what I found.
I'm going to push back on this a little bit, just because, well, think about it. Like, are there certain situations where you're engaging with certain types of content, you're okay with it being AI? And in fact, a couple of years ago, we actually did a different survey, and this was surveying, it was a small group, but a number of students, and most of them said that they were okay with it if it was educational content, as in like tutorial videos. Like if the tutorial videos were 100% AI generated and taught you and like walked you through stuff, that was fantastic. But if it was like a personal brand or like an influencer that you're following, like let's say it's like a mommy blogger kind of thing, like, and then you find out their content is AI, like that's, I think the win, what you were saying, Austin, earlier is key. There's certain types of content that it is when you have to have that personal connection. There's other times when like it doesn't really honestly matter that much. At the same time, I don't know, have you guys ever gotten on a phone call to customer service and it's like AI?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's the worst, right? Immediately, I'm just like 0000. Please get me to an operator.
Representative.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so it's those kinds of situations because you're like, I don't know where this is going to go, and most of the time, it's probably not going to lead to what I want. And so again, it's that win moment. Does that make sense? So awesome. Anyone have anything else on this topic? Cool. Kyle, you're up next.
Yeah, I recently heard a joke on this AI. I recently heard a joke. Somebody was saying the scientists just figured out how to recreate an actual brain, a human brain. And does anyone want to take a guess how long it took to make this?
9 months.
9 months. Yeah. Took 9 months. All right, let's jump into my video. I'm going to be talking about the perception that consumers have with perceiving content, and then on the marketing side as well, the perception with that as well. Today, we're looking at how AI is changing social media marketing and what research says about its impact on trust, authenticity, and human connection. Over 60% of marketers now use AI tools, and researchers estimate that 30 to 40% of online content is AI generated or AI assisted. AI makes content faster to create, but researchers are beginning to identify some major downsides. According to Deloitte, 70% of consumers say AI makes online content harder to trust. And HubSpot found that 63% believe that AI-generated content feels less authentic than human-created content. One study found that AI-written emotional content can trigger something called moral disgust, where people feel uncomfortable with simulated emotion. This can reduce emotional connection and customer loyalty. The impact isn't just on consumers. Research found that 26% of marketers experience AI-related mental fatigue, while 41% report dealing with low-quality AI output that requires significant rework, up to 2 hours. Research also suggests that while AI increases the amount of content created, it can decrease originality. As more brands use the same tools, content starts sounding increasingly similar. So the conclusion is, AI isn't just changing how marketers create content. It may be weakening the psychological foundations that make marketing effective. Thank you. Yeah, do you guys notice how fast I had to talk on that thing? I found so much research, so much content on this subject. Like I had to go through this video so fast. It was amazing, and it was funny. Like we've been talking about I think Abby's section mentioned it's gonna downplay the creative skills. And what I was fascinated about with this research is it's not only downplaying the skills, but it's changing us as a society completely. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I start to write with M dashes now. In my texts or anything else. I start to type like ChatGPT, and it's crazy. But it's kind of that, when everybody's super, nobody will be. Little syndrome action for you there. But that's really the shift that's happening with society. And one of the biggest findings from these studies is the more that everybody starts to use the same AI tools, everybody's going to be getting the same content, which means users are, even though AI is claiming that it's, tailoring it towards them and that audience, they're really getting hand-me-downs from the rest of the program. So I wanted to hear a little. I don't think AI is going away. That's my personal take. It's definitely not going away, and I think it's really valuable in many different areas. But I wanted to hear from you guys because people connect with people, right? That's what marketing's all about. The reason I buy something is because I connect with it. I wanted to hear from you guys. Do you think AI is going away? Right? And do you think human-created content is going to become even more valuable because AI is becoming so common? What do you guys think?
I can answer that.
Yeah.
It's not going away. We just have to learn how to adapt to it. It's a poor comparison, but it's a comparison nonetheless. Let's think about the calculator, right? When that first came out, everybody was like, oh, that's taboo. You can't use that. You have to use math.
Use one between your ears.
Yeah, the calculator between your ears, yeah. And to an extent, I really do agree with that, right? That's why I don't think I started using a calculator when I was younger until I got into, until I understood the basic math, until I understood how math worked, right? So I think AI is going to have to be the exact same way, right? We can't just, give, a kid a calculator and say, all right, this is what 2 + 2 is because that's what the calculator says, or because that's what AI says. I think, again, it's going to have to We're gonna have to figure out how and when to introduce AI. And again, we've been talking about it this whole time. Timing and when is so important. But I also, with your the next part of your question, I think it's going to make human created content so much more valuable. 100%. It's going to make it. I think we're going to find another shift towards human related or human made content because people are going to think I'm going to be unique and not use AI. I'm going to create something my own. So I think we'll find it'll take a while, but I think we'll find another shift towards human made content.
Gotcha. The pendulum's going to swing and then swing back a few
think so.
times. Yeah, gotcha. Anybody else have a comment on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think AI is going away. I think like anything, we got to learn how to make sure that we're being responsible and and making sure we're doing things that are good and helping to uplift society.
Yeah,
I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I wanted to touch on before I move on. Austin earlier was talking about when he was creating his logo, he had to go back and make sure he had to do so much work to redo it and make sure it was the way he wanted. Part of the study I didn't have time to share on the presentation was that Deloitte study found that marketers spent on average an extra 2 hours of rework when they used AI initially. So they would use AI and it would cost them an extra 2 hours of work. So there's definitely some downsides, but I think like we've been talking about today, if we can learn to use it in the right process, depending on the content, there's going to be some real time advantages and cost saving advantages as far as shipping products and content. So
I just want to share something real quick because I'm really going to date myself here, and I started college before ChatGPT was released. So I've been here for a good little while.
So did I.
Exactly. See, Brother Rognan and I, man. But I remember when I first heard about ChatGPT, I was talking to my dad about it, and I quoted Meet the Robinsons, and I said, take a good look around because the world is about to change. And he laughed, and he was like, yeah, you're probably right, but we'll see how long it lasts. And to that point, I agree with everybody else. I feel like that is going to be the new normal. I feel like people are going to use it, and it needs to be a tool and not, it needs to be used as it's designed as a tool and not the end all be all. And that's all I have to say about that.
Awesome. Thanks. I got a lot of thoughts on this, and unfortunately we don't have the time to get into it. But, I think just to add my 2 cents at the end, having taught for like 10 years and watching students go through this progression and that kind of stuff, it's really, really fascinating to see like some of the prompts that are used and then the just blind dependency on the outcome of a very simple prompt of being like, figure this out for me. And do you know what I mean? Like that's still to this day, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I don't know about you. I would agree with the study that you just talked about where it's like adding 2 hours, but I also think, cause I just used it with some colleagues, and coming up with a big idea for this client that we're working on. And like, it was helpful because it got us thinking in different ways. When it comes down to the prompt, I just got turned on to this one where it was like, hey, when you're prompting, ask it to be a counsel, and then you give it like 5 different roles. And one of those is it has to be like the outside thinker, someone that like pushes back on it and all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden now you're getting way different results back than necessarily the typical just, what should I do? Do you know what I mean? And I, as the calculator example, the calculator didn't get rid of math. The expectations just rose of what the minimum expectations are. And I think that's where we're at now, kind of thing. So Seth, you're last up.
Sweet, cool. I'm gonna talk a little bit about how AI can improve our workflows and kind of consolidate everything we've talked about today. I made this really awesome like 1.5-minute video kind of explaining. So if you want to play that, that'd be awesome. All right, so picture this. You sit down to post on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and your brain just goes, nope. You have like 3 platforms to post on, you have like 0 ideas. And that's kind of like the daily reality for a lot of social media marketers and creators. They're juggling lots of ideas to like write and design and post and reply to comments and check analytics on all sorts of things they're working on. It's a lot of kind of repetitive work, and AI is actually really good at doing a lot of those boring parts. And used right, AI can help you go from like an idea to like a finished product really faster, much faster. So like social media marketers, they have to juggle lots of ideas. There's writing, there's designing, and I have to post across multiple platforms. And this workflow is very time consuming. But AI tools can kind of help say, okay, this would work better for one, this would work better for another platform. AI is also great for drafts. Sometimes like the first step in the workflow is just like, what do I even post? Like, I don't even know what to post. AI is really good at kind of coming up with lots of ideas, lots of captions, hashtags. Like, I've spent like minutes trying to come up with hashtags, and AI can do that instantly. And AI for scheduling is really good. Like, AI is really good at compiling lots of different information into like one kind of artificial brain. Like, AI can look at like, okay, for your niche, this is the best time to schedule, and I can pull from lots of different sources instead of you having to go research everything individually. Can help save a lot of time. And AI analytics is also a really good way. It can just be a lot better at finding all these different analytical things to help you make better decisions about posting. And those are my sources. Sweet. I feel that I had to talk fast too. I was like, there's so much here. So kind of why I decided to talk about this is I play in a band, and one of the things that we're doing all the time is we're posting all the time, and we're always trying to find things to post and like find new fans. And kind of the older I get, the more I realize I'm a sensitive, emotional, creative person, and I have to come to grips with that. So, so I know for me, like I totally get what everybody's saying. Is like when I see content, when I see art, I want to feel something. I want to feel emotional, and I feel the AI like totally takes away from that. Like I see an AI made poster, I'm like, yeah, I ain't ever going to that place. And so I totally feel that. But for me, what I've really seen AI help me is like when I'm like making an Instagram reel about my band, like I don't know what hashtags are working right now. Like I could go spend like 4 hours like I don't know, finding hashtags, or I can throw my video into like a project I've made, and I've said like, hey, this is my band, this is the kind of music we play, this is our audience. I can put the video in and say like, hey, I need like 5 hashtags for this. Can you help me out? And I feel like stuff like that is really where I think AI shines. Is we can still have this creative side of us, and we can kind of have all this boring stuff that AI does that takes away. We can spend more time doing the things that really matter, and that's why I think for me I found the most value with AI, because I just feel like that it's such a cool thing that I don't have to spend like 5 hours figuring out what hashtags work. Like I think that's awesome. I don't have to figure out like what captions are working right now or what's trending. It's super awesome for that, and I can just focus on the creative side. I can focus on making music in my case and not have to just worry about all that other stuff. So I just kind of wanted to open up to y'all for closing. Like, has anyone used AI to like help you with a social media post? I know you talked about you run like a podcast, and like how has that helped you kind of get rid of like the boring stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that question, and I immediately went straight to my podcast because I'm always posting for that. And one of the problems I ran into when I first started my Phoenix Suns podcast was game day. Hey, it's game day. Like, here's a game day post. And I was like, okay, I want to create something that says, hey, watch the game. I'll have a game recap afterwards. So I went to Canva, and I used a Canva AI template. And this is where, AI helped me a lot. I found a template that I was like, oh, I really like this idea. And then I tweaked it to make it, like crucial to my brand, which was my podcast. And it was really cool. First, how much time it saved me from just like creating something from scratch. Cause I'm a creative person, but I couldn't for the life of me think about a post, right? I couldn't think about how I wanted it to look. So having that AI created idea really helped me personalize it and make it my own. And at the end of the day, it looked good, it looked professional, and it looked like something that fit my brand.
Yeah, I've definitely done that for sure. I started a company a few months ago, and we were creating our audience is professors, entrepreneurship professors, and we created this campaign. We created these venture scenarios. They're like mini case studies for entrepreneur classes, and we test them in a few classes, and they loved it. And then we started putting out this AI generate. I made like this AI campaign for each of our venture scenarios, which is like Airbnb or Uber, stuff like that. And the feedback I got from the professors following the page was like, this sucks, like it's AI. And I was like, dang, bummer, you know? So I had to go back, but I have like no artistic bone in my body. Like if I get on Canva or Adobe, it's gonna take me 10 hours to do anything. But so I got on AI again. I was like, okay, I'm still gonna use it, but let's just get some ideas out there. So like Austin said, I created like the MVP of what it should look like, and then I went in and I made an individualized. That way I wasn't tweaking around with everything, so I knew exactly what to build when I got in there, and I didn't waste all the time, but it still looked original, like I made it. So
Tough. Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. I think the other place that I've seen it happen a lot is, and this is where social media actually can really shine a ton for companies, especially when they're trying out like brand, like campaigns and that kind of thing. You can build that piece of proof of concept and then send it out on social. And like, okay, does this actually work? Does this not? Does this connect with our audience? And it's quick at adaptation. So instead of investing large amounts of money into these like national campaigns that go, you know, like you're spending real dollars throwing it on like TV and all that kind of stuff, right? Now all of a sudden we can do these pressure tests, and the creative side of things can happen a lot faster. You got to push it to get it there. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, it's just going to look like all the other slop that's out there. But ultimately, that's kind of where I've seen it the most as well. But this has been a great podcast. Great episode. Thanks for tuning in, for everyone that's tuned in, and check back, look at other videos, podcasts for other stuff about social media. Thanks for joining.